Yo, what is going on, you guys? It's your boy King Sanders here. We are back with another day of sports betting. This is going to be for Tuesday, December 27th slate of NBA action, man. I'm super excited to dive into it. We actually have a pretty good slate of basketball on today, so I'm super excited to watch some basketball. We had a pretty good slate yesterday. We ended up going 2-2 on our picks yesterday, and we'll go ahead and talk about that here in just a minute. Before we did, I did just want to go ahead and say that we are still currently less than 50 subscribers away to that 10,000 mark, and if we end up hitting that by the time that New Year's does hit, we'll be doing a pretty big giveaway that you guys will not want to miss. So, if you guys are new, make sure that you guys do like, comment, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you guys know whenever I post. Next, I did just want to go ahead and give a quick shout out here to all of our members here on the channel. Thank you guys so much for everything that you guys do. And thank you guys so much for giving such a small channel such a big chance, as I always say. It truly does mean the absolute world to me, so much more than you guys will ever know. So, I did just want to go ahead and address really quickly the reason that I did not end up making a video as of yesterday. I do apologize about it, by the way. But basically, long story short, I did have to go ahead and go take care of my grandma. Basically, not going to get into it too much on YouTube just because, you know, it is kind of my personal life, but basically I had to go take care of my grandma. Her health is not necessarily the greatest currently. So, had to go ahead and do that. So I do apologize about taking the day off yesterday. But I was going to wake up early and do it, and that kind of all hit me, so I just really didn't have time to do it. But I did still put out plays. I put them out on my Twitter, and I did also put them out on the community tab, as I always do if there is no video for the day. So we'll go ahead and dive into a quick recap of those. We did have Jeremy Sohan over 10.5 points versus Utah at minus 105. This one he finishes with just 6 points. Starts the game out 1 for 5 from the field. Definitely a tough shooting night at the beginning of the night for Mr. Sohan. And then from there, he ends up taking a couple more shots. He finishes with 6, as I had mentioned, but he really wasn't nearly as aggressive as we have seen him over the past couple nights, where he was getting 10 to 14 shot attempts. So, you know, that one did not end up working out for us. Then we had Jaden Ivey under 22.5 PRAs versus the Clippers at minus 120 odds. This was our other loss of the day. This one didn't end up working out either. He had a really good third quarter. The third quarter is what really burned us. At the beginning of the first half, he was right at 11, so it was going to be a sweat right down to the very end. But then he ended up turning up in the third quarter, ends up hitting his over in PRAs about halfway through the fourth. So, you know, it is what it is. Ended up losing that one, but then we did have our 2 wins as well. First things first, we did have the Timberwolves plus 4.5 versus the Heat. This was sweaty. Even I took this obviously before I knew that Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo were going to be out of the rotation, but this was still sweaty. Tyler Hero hit a huge shot to put them up by 6 with just under a minute left, and then after that, luckily for us, Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves decided to take over, ended up covering for us. So that one ended up working out. Then we did have Colin Sexton over. We added this one, by the way. We added it. But we did have Colin Sexton over 11.5 points versus the Spurs at plus value. This was an absolute steal. I listened to somebody on my Twitter. He hit me up on the DMs and was just basically telling me, hey, this line doesn't make sense. Why is this line only 11.5? And I looked at the stats and I said, I don't know. Let me go ahead and slap it on there. And it ends up working out for us. He definitely made us work for it, that's for sure. Started the game with 7 points in the first quarter, and then after that, not so many. Ends up hitting a 3 in the third quarter, puts him right at 10. And then he does end up coming through for us in the fourth quarter. So we ended up going 2-2 on our plays. Hopefully we can have another winning, hopefully we can have a winning day today. Been on a little bit of a cold stretch, but I can tell you right now, I really like our plays today. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. So for our first official play of the day, our King's kill shot play of the day, we're taking Franz Wagner over 18.5 points here versus the Lakers at minus 125 odds. Now, he's been really good to this line here recently. I think that this line's just a touch too low. He has gone over in 3 out of his last 3 games, so he's perfect in his last 3. And he's hit the over in 7 out of his last 8. He's been very good to this number. And I think we can see it once again because he does average 21.6 points per game at home and just 17.8 on the road. He's a much better player when it comes to scoring the basketball at home. So I think that he can get it done here for us. He's also covered in 4 straight at home. He's been very good recently at home. And the Lakers, They're not a great defense. We all know that. They allow the 7th most points per game to opposing small forwards in the last 7 games. They give up a ton of points to that small forward position and just in general because they allow the most points per game to opposing teams in the last 3 games. And they have the worst defensive efficiency in all of basketball in the last 3 games. And the Lakers, they play, it's not like they, played a slow pace and, everything, but they play at a very fast pace. They're third in pace in the entire NBA, so they play at a fast pace. They give up a lot of points. They're really bad at defense. Hey, sign me up for an over here. The over-under is set to 235.5, which is actually really high for an Orlando Magic game. Normally, those are bumped down quite a bit, and there's still no Jalen Suggs in the lineup. So a guy like Franz Wagner is definitely going to have to take over. And I truly do think that he can. I think he can get 20 for us, no doubt about it. And another thing, the Lakers, without Anthony Davis, their paint defense hasn't necessarily been the greatest, which is where Franz Wagner does thrive. So hopefully we can go ahead and see a winning day here from Franz Wagner. Wow, I'm having the hardest time talking. Franz Wagner, hopefully he can get to 20 for us and we don't have to worry about this whatsoever. But that is going to be our first play of the day, our King's Kill Shot play of the day. Franz Wagner over 18.5 points here versus the Lakers at minus 125 odds. Now for our second official play of the day, we are going to be taking DeAnthony Melton over 11.5 points here versus the Wizards at minus 130 odds. Now, I like this for a couple different reasons. I think that this line is just a touch too low. He's covered in 3 straight and he's hit the over in 6 out of his last 7. He's been very, very good to this line, and I think he can once again. The Wizards, they do allow the 5th most points per game to opposing shooting guards in the last 7 games, so I think it's a good spot. And if you look at some of the recent shooting guards, they've been killing it here versus the Wizards. If you take a look, Malik Monk, he had 16. Kevin Huerter, he had 14. Jordan Clarkson, he had 23. Malik Beasley, 25. Colin Sexton, 18. Landry Shamet, 31. Lonnie Walker, 21. Austin Reeves, 12. Luke Kennard, 20. The last 9 listed shooting guards that have gone against the Wizards have hit this over, and I think that DeAnthony Melton can do it once again because the Wizards, they allow the 7th most three-pointers per game to opposing shooting guards in the last 7 games, and well, that's great for us because because DeAnthony Melton, he averages 6.2 three-point attempts per game. So he chucks a lot of threes. So if they're giving up a ton of them, I think it's a really good spot here to be taking it over. So we're going to be riding with it for our second official play of the day. DeAnthony Melton over 11.5 points here versus the Wizards at minus 130 odds. Now for our third official play of the day, we are going to be taking Dillon Brooks under 22.5 PRAs here versus the Suns at minus 125 odds. Now, I like this. The main reason is just because Desmond Bane is back in the lineup. Desmond Bane is a very good player. He's going to be taking some of those shots away from a guy like Dillon Brooks. And with Desmond Bane this year, Dillon Brooks is 7-4 to the under. So he's much more profitable than he is not with Desmond Bane in the rotation. And in 4 out of his last 6 games, Dillon Brooks' minutes has dropped below 30 minutes. So he's not necessarily seeing the same run that he normally sees, and I think it's a good spot to be taking a under here. And the main positive defensive piece here for the Phoenix Suns is obviously Mikal Bridges. More than likely, he's going to see a lot of time here on a guy like Dillon Brooks or potentially on Desmond Bane, but either way, I really just don't mind it. And in the last 7 games, Phoenix allows the 2nd fewest points per game to opposing small forwards and the 4th fewest assists per game to opposing small forwards. And overall, I know that recently they haven't quite been the greatest defense, but they do still allow the 10th fewest points per game to opposing teams. They're 11th in defensive efficiency, and he has gone under in 3 out of his last 4 games here from Phoenix, so we do have the history on our side as well. And we all know Dillon Brooks. He loves to hack. He could definitely be in foul trouble. There's no question about that. And the over-under is honestly kind of low. It's only set to 228. So I do think that Dillon Brooks does struggle here today. I think we do see another under here from him. So that is going to be our third official play of the day. Dillon Brooks under 22.5 PRAs versus the Suns at minus 125 odds. So those are our 3 official plays, but I am going to talk about a couple leans that I did have just because there was some that really did stand out. But there was just a couple stats that made me think, I don't really love it. So I do love Joel Embiid, or I do like Joel Embiid's over in PRAs. Obviously, Joel Embiid is an absolute monster. He's going up against the Washington Wizards. There was just a couple stats that kind of threw me away from it, but overall, I do still think Joel Embiid over in PRAs is always going to be a good look regardless. So I think that that's a good spot if you wanted to take that. I also do like Jokic over in PRAs. Without Sabonis for the Kings, it's not like their defense could have really gotten too much worse. And the fact that there is no Sabonis, I just don't think there's going to be anybody that can even halfway stop Jokic on that team, especially with no Sabonis. So I think the Jokic's PRA is a pretty good look as well. I do also like Porzingis under in rebounds just because I feel like with Embiid being in the paint, a lot of times he's going to be spending a lot of time on that perimeter. Not really going to be getting a ton of rebounds, so I did like that one as well. I also do like the Thunder -6 here versus the Spurs. Spurs are obviously on the second leg of a back-to-back. They did just come off of a pretty big win here in this last game, so versus Utah, excuse me. So I just think that they have a letdown spot here. I think that the Thunder are a good enough team to win by double digits in this game, so I do like that one. Then I do also like the Golden State Warriors -4. I think that that's a pretty good spot as well. So, regardless, I do think that those are some pretty good leans if you wanted some additional plays to add to your card. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the consensus play. So, for the consensus play, we do have the Hawks traveling to Indiana to take on the Pacers. Currently, the Pacers are 1.5-point favorites, and for the Hawks, there is no Clint Capella, and DeAndre Hunter is listed as questionable. And the Pacers really don't have any injuries; they are just going to be missing Kendall Brown. But other than that, they're pretty much a healthy team. So currently, like I said, the Pacers are -1.5, and I'm going to save us just a little bit of time here. All 5 of us are on the Pacers, minus the 1.5 here. I just think that the books are trying to tell you who is going to be winning this game. I know that the Hawks, overall, they have the better talent. There's just no question about that. But the Hawks have really struggled to put it together, and the Pacers have been a pretty good team. So I do think that they can pull off the win in this one and at least win by 2 points. So that is going to be the consensus play of the day. 5 gappers, 2-0. The Pacers -1.5 here versus the Hawks at -110 odds. So that is going to do it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you guys do like, comment, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you guys know whenever I post. Like I said, we're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and we're less than 50 subs away. So make sure that if you guys are new, make sure that you guys are subbed. But that's going to do it for me. This is King Center signing out. Peace.